One day, Dad came home with a little tinny with a 6 horsepower. So that was it. It was just the greatest being out on the water and just the freedom of getting out there and just going cruising and going fishing and doing whatever we did on the river. And that's where it all sort of started. And then it became a job then after sort of start with short marine. And I wanted to work on bigger stuff. I could get in an engine room and look around an engine room and go, yeah, we can get this out of here. Yeah, we'll do this. We'll roll on its side. We'll build this frame to do this, to do that. I enjoy that side of it. If you're happy outside of work and you're enjoying yourself socially with the people you work with, it shows.
You're listening to the Rising Tidecast, the podcast for sharing the stories, the lessons, and all the good stuff from legends in the marine industry. Welcome to another episode of the Rising Tidecast. Today we've got the one and only Andrew Stubbs, also known as Stubby, Stubbsy, Stumpy. I believe that may be only in America though. And I'm so stoked to have you on because, you are absolutely a legend in the marine industry. And you're also a great friend and one of the funniest and most genuine people I know. And you're also one of the directors at Onboard Engineering in Sydney, along with Damo and Shannon. You guys are very well known for being Sydney's go-to marine engineering company. Welcome, Stubby.
Thanks for having me, Steve. And very nice intro, mate.
Yeah. Hey? We've had some pretty unforgettable adventures together, I have to say, from multiple US trips to boat shows and factory tours to heavy tackle on the Great Barrier Reef, number 3 this year, I think. And, I've seen you do it all, from craning engines out of, 60-foot yachts with millimeters of clearance to repairing blown exhausts on an airboat with no spare parts or proper tools in Florida, standing in the water in Lake Okeechobee surrounded by alligators. So truly you're a man of many talents. But that also says to me, you can do it all. And I think the common thread there is the passion that you have for what you do. So what do you think initially sparked that passion that you have about engines and the marine industry in particular?
Mate, I was really, really blessed growing up. I lived on the waterfront in a place called Oyster Bay in the south of Sydney on the Georges River, and just on the water all the time. And it started off with a surf ski paddling around. And one day, sort of, Dad came home with a little tinny with a 6 horsepower. So that was it. It was just the greatest being out on the water and just the freedom of getting out there and just going cruising and going fishing and doing whatever we did on the river. And so that's where it all sort of started. And then it became a job then after sort of starting with short marine. And then I just, really, really loved the industry I was in. Had to do a couple of years doing trucks and excavators and generators and whatever else sort of coming through at me. But the passion came from a young age, and I guess it was all brought on by growing up in that environment on the water. And we just couldn't wait till the sun to get up on a weekend to go out boating. And then had to be in obviously before the sun went down, but mate, we were on the water every weekend, so summer, winter, didn't really matter. It was just my brothers, and my sister wasn't that involved with it, but we all grew up on the water and loved it. So
I even see that because I know you guys, and Tyler's out on the water all the time, kind of on his own with Ethan, and I think it's a really special way to grow up. What's important about that for you?
Oh, I just love to see the kids out there and enjoying themselves. Their problem-solving ability, they got stuck in a low tide in a place where they shouldn't have been when the tide went out. And there was no phone service, which is, back in the old days, you never had a phone. But these days, those kids had to figure it out on their own. I think it's really, really good for their problem-solving skills. It's good for their balance. It's good for their mind too, just to get away from everything and not be sitting there on their devices. And the kids love it out there. So even the 2 young girls, Tora's on the paddleboard from swim around on the boat all day, every day. And, Ali gets into it, and she's sort of really enjoying her fishing and boating as well. So, it's really nice for the kids to get out there and get involved.
It's awesome. And you can share that on the Triton with them sometimes when you're out. Tell us a little bit about the Triton that you've got.
It's a floating caravan, basically. Chris and I were sort of looking at buying a caravan at the time to sort of take the kids away and just have weekends away, because when I'm at home, I'm too close to work and I'll take a phone call and go to work and just can't help myself. So we were looking at a caravan down the south coast, and then really good customer of ours, Miko, who ran the boat for the Shimano guys, and it was the Shimano boat before that. Miko sort of said to me, come up and have a look at the boat because it's running rough and it's blowing smoke. And anyhow, so I got there and compression tested it and said to him, mate, they're just worn out. So then got on the plane, flew back to Sydney, and he rings me, he says, mate, they're never going to spend the money on the boat that needs to be spent to fix the engines up. they just won't go for it. So they want to sell it as is, where is, and you should buy the boat. And I sort of went, no, I don't want the boat. No, just, no, mate. Yeah. Within 2 hours, I was sort of thinking about it, and I'm like, I'll go home. I said to Chris, what about a boat instead of a caravan? Because it's a great boat, great accommodation, good layout. And, so I was sort of talked Chris around, and then we drove up to Wauchope for Christmas and sort of was spending time up there with her brother and sister-in-law and all the family. And next thing I said, come on, we're only 2 hours from Cost. Let's jump in the car and drive up and have a quick look. And got there, and she walked in. She's like, oh, yeah, she could actually see that it was, like I said, like a caravan, but still with the accommodation and the shower, the bathroom, all the stuff that you needed, so we could get away for a weekend or a week or a month if we wanted to. So sort of she came around, and the next thing we bought the Triton. I rebuilt one engine and then found another pair of engines in WA, which I sort of bought and shipped over, built them all up and ceramic coated everything and did stupid stuff like people who work on cars do with their pride and joy. And so I did the same for the boat and did it all up and put the pair of 550s in it. And, Chris got right into it too. She got in there and painted out the engine room and painted out the lazarette, and still got a bit of wiring to do. But basically now the boat's, really, really reliable. Still got the same bones it had, and the guys from Shimano put in some amazing interior work with nice lounges and, 4 bunks up the front, big side double and 2 bathrooms. So, yeah, mate, it's a great boat, and it's being the old 43 Mariner, really, really, solid hull and really, really good bones of a boat. And, we often call it the big-breasted lady because it's just so comfortable. So you go out to sea, and mate, there's no need for the new fancy stabilizers. Mate, you still put your stubby on the dash, and it doesn't slide all over the place. And it's a bit different when it's at rest, but yeah, it's a great boat, and kids love it, and we enjoy spending a lot of time on it. So
we always have a good time when we're on it. Like, what is it? Nothing frightens the Triton.
Nothing frightens the Triton. That's the catchphrase. I think we owe Mitsubishi a bit for that, but
we definitely used it. We've been on brand new Vikings together. We've been on the crazy center consoles and beautiful new boats and older boats. But when you get on your boat, it's going to be a good time, because even though it's a little bit older or whatever it is, like, you have a great time regardless.
Oh, mate, we've had some interesting times. Like last time we went out, I hadn't used it for a month or so, and then we get on it. We go out for the Port Hacking 100 comp this year, get to the end of the bay, and I'm like, oh, mate, I've got no steering. So, have to go down and bleed the steering and put oil in the steering, and, we got it going again, and we've had fires on board. We've had all sorts of exciting stuff, but it comes with the territory with an older sort of boat. But
always an adventure.
Mate, yeah, it's like you said, mate, when it's your own, you feel really comfortable, and you're not so worried about what everybody's doing. If someone's been sick in the bathroom or, it's good to have your own sort of stuff, I guess.
Finding people in the cabin in the morning.
A couple of stowaways, a couple of people we couldn't wake up. It's always an interesting time.
It's a great boat. Take me on your journey from like when you were at Andrew Short Marine and then to kind of starting Onboard engineering. How did that go, and why did you end up starting it? And I think one of the great things is I always hear stories about how much you loved and learned at Andrew Short Marine. It was a very unique environment, I think, especially for your kind of step into the industry. What was it like, and what were you doing back there, and what are some of the things that you learned and loved?
Probably the really, really good start was Andrew Short Marine, because it was a lot of different things. They had a showroom there where they were selling boats. They were selling marine accessories. They were selling jet skis. You weren't just stuck in the workshop doing mechanical work. I spent a lot of time in the showroom selling engines, parts, accessories, adjusting trailers, doing wheel bearings, servicing jet skis. So there was a really, really broad amount of work that sort of came through there. So there's a lot of things that I picked up, and I didn't really even realise until after I sort of left there how much I took away from working there. But working with Andrew was fantastic. And Liam, who was the sales manager at the time, mate, the customer service that Liam sort of portrayed and the way he dealt with customers after the fact, after they bought a boat, a jet ski, whatever. I learned a lot from him. The tradesmen there were really, really good tradesmen, Nathan, Sean. Yeah, I got a lot of different things from different people, I think, which is important. I didn't just learn one trade there. I learned a lot in the 4 years I was there. I wanted to work on bigger stuff, and I did a post-trade diesel course in the last year of my trade at Andrew Short, and he just bought Yowie Bay Marina. I was sort of hoping to transfer down there and work on the bigger boats and work on the Sea Rays and the Mariner boats that he'd started sort of selling. But anyhow, he basically said, no, you've only just come good at doing what you do now and you need to stay here. And so then I sort of thought, oh, well, I'll look for another job. And yeah, anyhow, so I left there and it was great. I shook hands, walked away. There was no bad blood. I went to Cummins and worked for Cummins for probably just on 4 years there. The deal when I started with Cummins Diesel was I had to do another trade. I'd come from what they call a marine mechanical trade, which is outboards, jet skis, stern drives. They wanted me to do a heavy vehicle trade and I had to have a motor vehicle repairer's license to work on registered trucks and stuff for breakdowns. And so I went back to TAFE, bit of a change because I wasn't actually getting paid to go to TAFE this time. So I paid a lot more attention. It's a bit like school. At school it's fun and games, but when you're actually there and you've got to learn and it's time away from work, I made a conscious effort to pay a lot more attention. So
you're making the most of it for sure.
Yeah. So I did my heavy vehicle trade in 3 years of TAFE there and got a qualification in that. Then I'd actually approached this company before I went to Cummins and they had said no to me, and that was Mobile Marine Repairs. It was a local marine mechanical company based in Tarrant Point, and he said, no, mate, you need diesel experience. So I went to Cummins, and then after I'd been there for a couple of years, I sort of started seeing him around the waterways and around the marinas and stuff. And so Jason approached me and asked me if I'd like to get a job there. And so, I left Cummins and went and worked for Jason at Mobile Marine. And, mate, that was, again, fantastic crew, great guys to work with, lots and lots of different products from two-stroke Detroits to, MAN. They were probably one of the first MAN dealers in Australia, aside from the importers. And the MAN marine business was, sort of slowly growing back then. And yeah, Jason was a fantastic mentor and a fantastic teacher in diagnosis, especially. Like, anybody can go and spin filters and do the simple stuff, but Jason was fantastic in the way he really methodically diagnosed something. Once you pull something apart, you own it. And that was one of his favourite sayings, once you pull apart, you're committed. So slow down, step by step, diagnose it. And if you follow the steps, you'll get there just as quick by sort of, get to the end result and you'll save the customer money and yourself time and heartache. Another thing that Cummins sort of taught you well for the warranty side of things and the guidelines in the manuals and stuff. So I think that's one of the biggest things I got a lot to thank Jason for at Mobile Marine. It was another great place to learn and fantastic people. So
that's a huge thing. I mean, from the content that we made and stuff, the diagnosis is the biggest part. And I love hearing that about like you own it when you take it apart. It's a very great mindset, I think, to instill in someone that's young, just learning, because then I think you put a lot more importance on learning the right way to do it. And it also makes sure that you have people that have a great sense of responsibility for their work, which is probably something that you look for in people that you work with, right?
100%. Like it's someone's pride and joy. You might think it's not the greatest boat you've ever seen, but someone really loves that boat, and that's why they're spending the money on it. And yeah, you got to treat it like it's yours. And I say it all the time to our guys, like, look after the boat like it is yours, and sort of look after the customer as well. The customer needs to have that confidence and that trust in you that you are treating the boat like that every step of the way. Like even the deck protection, the little things, the fingerprints around the engine hatches, and like that sort of stuff can't be avoided sometimes, but clean it up at the end of the day. Don't leave the fingerprints everywhere. Don't leave a shit show and walk away, because it is someone's pride and joy. They can come down there at a night, later on in the night, have a look at the boat, and then if they see that's the way you've treated it.
That's actually one of the things that I learned growing up and was always instilled in me by my dad. It was like, when you borrow someone, when you use someone else's stuff, whatever, you always return it better than you found it. So whether it is cleaning footprints or doing something else, like people are always happy to lend you things or have you back to work on their boat, I think, when you approach it with that mindset. What was next on the journey to starting Onboard?
I was working at Mobile Marine with Shannon, and look, Jason and I had spoken about me buying into the business. At the time, he was looking to sell out, and then that sort of fell over, and he was just looking to get out. He was pretty struggling with his health, or knew that he was going to be struggling with his health in the future, and was always worried about that. So he looked to sell out to someone else, and then Power Equipment, which is the Yanmar importer for Australia. They were looking to buy out the business. I can't remember whether they'd actually bought him out or it was in the process. And I basically said to him, look, I always wanted to have my own business from when I was 30. my wife was pregnant with our first baby, and I just decided that it was the time. So sort of resigned from Jason. I was just going to go out and do whatever I could do to keep myself busy. If it had to be trucks and excavators, and marine had sort of come. And then Damien came in and he bought a Yanmar engine office at the time. And I did a bit of a deal with Jason. If I had have sold 5 engines, I think, I got to go to Japan. So I sold the 5th engine to Damien.
Okay.
And then, a bit of a story, but Jason never took me to Japan. He took his wife, Jodie, and I was like, what? No, but you and I go. And he's, anyhow, long story. But so, I resigned from Jason, and Damien sort of said to me, listen, why don't you have a chat? And he was too busy for him to keep up with the work, and it was sort of probably a good way for me to sort of step away from mobile marine. I didn't want to be that guy who walked away and then customers start, let's use Andrew, and it's not the right thing to do. And I'm pretty ethical with stuff like that, or very ethical with stuff like that. I don't like that sort of thing. So I just stepped away and worked for Damien with his customers. And mate, there's people on the marina that see you, and eventually they sort of, but I want you to work on the boat, and then the next thing it sort of snowballs from there. And pretty soon after that, Jason had sold out to Power Equipment, and he sort of was taking a bit of a step back from the same role that he had with mobile marine. And I guess Onboard grew. Then we got a couple of apprentices, and we had another employee, another tradesman, and Shannon did another 4 or 5 years with Power Equipment. And then Shannon bought into the business and become a partner at Onboard Engineering. So then there was the 3 directors, and once there was sort of 3 of us, the ball just kept rolling, and it just sort of got bigger and bigger, and more employees and office staff and spare parts. And so, that's how we ended up to where we are today. So,
well, that's what happens, I think, when you do a good job at anything, right? You just keep growing like that. And it's great that you guys could find each other and have the same kind of vision, I think, for maybe what you wanted to grow, or at least a similar vision, which I'm assuming only because you're still together after all these years. What were some of the biggest challenges in starting Onboard for you guys?
It was a steep learning curve, mate, because both Damien and I, when we first started, we were just workers. We just got in and got the work done. So, which is all fine, but at the end of the month, when you've got to pay your bills and everything, and you haven't invoiced anybody, it's not ideal. So we quickly figured that one out, that you can do all the work in the world, but if you don't invoice someone and get money in, well, you can't keep going. So that was a real quick learning curve.
Probably a month to take that one.
It was funny. We started it like on the 4th of November, I remember, was the day we started Onboard, because it was my dad's birthday.
Oh,
so, so we started it, and then by Christmas time, we were running it on credit cards and our own money. And then Christmas came around and we're like, oh, whoops, we've done all this work and we've been working so hard, but where's all the money? It's all there in timesheets and parts and stuff. But so invoicing and trying to keep on top of that side of it in the early days was really, really difficult for us, because we were, as I said, we were workers. But employees after that, we grew pretty quickly for a little while, and we ended up with 6 people, 7 people, and we're still trying to do the admin and order our own parts and do the invoicing so that was a learning curve. We had to take a big step back from that, put someone on in admin that, took the phone calls, booked the work in. Well, not so much booked the work in, but, made sure that we knew what was ahead of us and sort of stuck to a bit of a plan. So
how did you figure out what to do at each stage? Was it like trial by fire, or did you have mentors in the industry, or was it just seriously, oh my God, we haven't invoiced anybody and we can't do this, we should probably get like an accounts person?
No, we would just get to the point where we had no money. In the first probably 6 months, it was like that. I think we were working, for 3 weeks, and we'd do Saturdays, Sundays, and then all of a sudden you'd be invoicing for 3 or 4 days, and then you'd catch up. But it took 3 months or so to get our heads around it. So, both Damien's wife and my wife had other jobs, and, Chris was pregnant. So we never really involved them in the business at all. We sort of did it all ourselves. And that was definitely the first stage of the learning curve. But my dad said to me when we first went into business, it's a saying, and he's, you shear a sheep year after year, but you'll only skin it once. So every time we do an invoice or look at an invoice or an estimate, you look at it and go, would that be reasonable? Would that be fair? And mate, the hardest thing we do, we tear up hours all the time, because you got to travel to and from a job site. Then you got to get access to the marina. Then sometimes you got to find the keys, wait for this guy, wait for that guy. If we could invoice every hour we worked, mate, we'd be killing it. we'd be doing really well. But it's impossible to do, and it's not right to do either, And I'm sure there's other industries that are the same where you have hours you can't sort of get back. But sometimes it'd be great, and I joke about just working on a Camry because a Camry's a car that's here in Australia there's 600,000 of them or 500,000, whatever they are, and they're all the same. So they've got the same brakes, the same this, the same that. Well, Rivieras, they don't necessarily have the same engines in them, same gearboxes, not the same decel. The propellers are different. The trim tabs are different. The displays on the dash are different. Like everything's different. And then you go to a custom boat, like an Assegai or an overseas boat, Viking or Azimut or whatever, and no two boats or even two models are the same a lot of the time. So that's probably another big challenge for us, is trying to keep up with all of that. And it's another thing we've learned, to build really good records with stuff like that. So
that's a very impressive part of the whole reporting system and quoting. I think the fact that you guys don't charge for every hour, it shows that you care about the customer a lot more than just making the quick buck, which I think probably from an outside perspective helped that growth quite a bit, because people want to work with people that they feel are genuine, that they're looking out for their best interests. And that is synonymous with all three directors. You're all really great people from talking to you and digging into brand story stuff. How do you think that played into your growth as a company?
Oh, mate, we never really advertised, and we still don't necessarily advertise to gain work. We advertise a lot for employees to try and attract people to come and work with us and be a part of the team. And I don't know there's many marine businesses that do what we do, that do advertise. It's all word of mouth, and it's all that trust and that connection and the relationship that you have with someone with their boat. And to get a phone call off Murray Offered, who we've worked for well over 10 years. It's been probably one of the original sort of customers we've had. For him to call on a Sunday and know that he can get an answer, whether it's just a quick, Murray, just turn it off, or yes, it can still be used, or whatever. But to have that relationship, I think, is great. And the customers know and they trust. And when they get the invoice, they know, mate, they're not silly. They know what sort of hours you've already put in or what's been going on. They can see that you've looked after them and done the right thing. And, it keeps them coming back. And then they tell their friends, mate, use these guys. These guys are great. And, and we're not the cheapest in the industry, mate, and we can't afford to be these days. We've got insurances and overheads and vehicles and all the things that come with running a bigger business. So we provide that service, and the knowledge, the depth that we've got in knowledge as well is a big thing for us, with three different directors who have got three different mindsets and ideas. And and we've got some fantastic tradesmen as well that we also bounce ideas off to sort of work out how we're going to do stuff. So I think that's a big thing for our business.
Reputation's everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now that you've got 20 people on staff and you're working everywhere, and I know you're going to Fiji all the time, and there's a lot of moving parts in the business. So if someone were starting a marine mechanic business and then they're growing to a size like yours after all these years, what are some of those problems that you guys are dealing with now?
Parts, the right parts, documentation on parts and stuff like that.
The details.
So you need a water pump, but you don't just need a water pump. You need the mount gasket that holds the oil cooler on, because you've got to pull the oil cooler off to get to the water pump to get to this, and that's what catches you out. And getting the wrong part in the wrong bag, getting to the job and you pull it apart and then you can't put it back together. So then you've got to go away and you've got to travel back. And, it's not the customer's fault. So again, you can't charge the customer. It's not the parts supplier's fault, because you only asked for that part. It's not the spare parts person's fault, because they just see it on a page in front of them. They don't see the actual. So that's our biggest challenge, is trying to connect all those things together and get the mechanics to talk to our parts people, and then our parts people to talk to the suppliers, and then the suppliers to supply the right stuff the first time or on time as well. It's another really, really big challenge when things are supposed to be here on Tuesday and you've got work booked in for that boat for Wednesday, and they turn up on Thursday and you've got work booked in for another boat on Friday, and you've got to keep rolling with that. So scheduling's really, really hard for us. And Chris
does a great job.
Chris has been a godsend to our business. He's fantastic with organising that and rolling with that and just sort of keeping it all together. But yeah, that's a really, really difficult thing to stay on top of.
Is that the parts interpreter I always see you guys looking for someone for, or is that basically a combined role of different people, like you're saying, working together, I guess, within the business?
Yeah, well, parts interpreter, they've got to interpret the parts that the boys need, order the parts, check the parts off, make sure that they're there ready to go for the job. I guess the hardest thing for them is that they're not actually on the job, so they don't actually physically see it. They see a pile of parts and they've got to somehow put that together in their head. It's a difficult role, but it's a really rewarding role too when when you get to the stage that you're all over it and you're supplying the right parts to the boys, and the boys,
Cruising, working on Camrys.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah. Now that you're at the stage you are in the business, like what's the most rewarding part of having a business like that?
I enjoy spending the time with the young blokes and watching the young guys come through and the young guys do well. And we've got some, apprentices that come through with us who have got fantastic jobs and, living their dream and having a great time. And, one of them, or two of them are now working for Penske, and one in Darwin and one here in Sydney. And they were really, really good apprentices, and then they stayed on and became fantastic tradesmen. And I love teaching the young kids and showing them sort of what to do and how to do it. And teaching, I guess, passing on the knowledge that I got off someone else, and education is power.
Yeah.
Van the man.
Yes, that's right. He was a legend.
He was a legend. He told me that, and it's another sort of catchphrase that sticks in my head. So, but yeah, teaching people I enjoy that, and I enjoy seeing them do well. And the other thing is when you pull something apart, put it back together, and it runs and it goes better than it did, or the jobs where you get to and someone says, "Oh, mate, it's impossible. We've got to cut this and do that and pull the engine out and then whatever." And then you do it in the boat, and we've done plenty of jobs like that. So
definitely seen some impressive work, and it's great to be able to give back, like you're saying, to the apprentices. And I think all three of you guys do enjoy that, teaching and helping the younger guys learn the right way to do it.
Sort of trying to guide them outside of work as well. We've had some kids who have been fantastic at work, and then their lives have fallen apart outside of work. And we've had some good parents too who sort of, you pull my son into line if he needs it, when we do. And so they respond to it, and it's good to sort of, you're altering someone's life. It's a pretty cool thing to do. So
what's one story that sticks out to you about someone that's come through the ranks?
We've had lots. We had Billy, who was a big fella, and he was sort of, when he turned up, he was really, really keen, but he sort of didn't know what he was doing. And then to build on that, and now he's got a fantastic job working in the mines out in Western New South Wales. And he was great. And his attitude, watching him sort of grow and get older and get more confident. And Luke was another one. Luke's sort of started with us as a young kid at like 15. He used to turn up riding his push bike or get dropped at work or whatever. And then watch him sort of get his license and get into one of the vans when he was a tradesman. And he was a young tradesman too. And, he did really, really well. And, Max is now working for Sydney or Transdev Ferries as an engineer. He started with us as a mature age apprentice, and he was like a big fella. So he was just over the top with his ability to lift things and do things up to the point that they did not need to be done up. And it was hard to sort of get his head around that. But mate, he's another guy who's got a great career and done really well and still in the industry. Yeah, there's plenty of them. So even young Lockie, who's just completed his trade with us, and tradesman and adult apprentice sort of went through. It's good to see the sort of guys who are doing a second trade or starting a trade at sort of 20 plus years. It's much easier, to be honest, to sort of educate those guys. I guess this would have been the same for me. The older you get, the more you realise
you're open to learning a bit. Yeah,
you don't know everything. It's weird how when you're young you think you know everything, and I'm sure I was the same. So
it's a cool place to work. Part of that is the fact that you guys represent some really great brands. You're still getting new brands, new partnerships. What are those brands that you guys have? And then also, what new tech are you excited that's coming out?
Sort of authorised agents for Mercury, for MAN, which is a big part of our business. Yanmar, Volvo, again, big part of our business. Twin disc transmissions, Seakeeper gyros, Caterpillar. We just signed another agreement with Caterpillar to stay on as their dealer as well. So they're all unique brands and they've all got great products. I think MAN at the moment is in their commercial business and their commercial engines with the V12 that they've got in lots and lots of passenger ferries in Australia, especially Sydney, Melbourne as well. But those engines are just fantastic in their application and their fuel economy and the savings that these people are having from these engines. We were lucky enough to sort of get those engines first here in Australia, and we were the test dummies for them. So we figured out their strengths and their weaknesses, and we built with Sea Power, who's the importer. We built like a bit of an idea of what's going on, what's going to fail, and we're preempting that and doing the interval servicing rather than repairs or breakdowns. And so we've got that going really, really well. And I think they're a fantastic, really strong product. Volvo, again, some of their products are fantastic. The IPS for entry-level people and boating, and the ability for them to maneuver the boat gives them confidence in the operation. So, someone who can afford a big boat can also drive it themselves, and it's important to their confidence. So that's a great product in that. Caterpillar, just traditionally strong engines always, and they're still sort of making great products. So Mercury Marine with their 600 horsepower, that's game changer. It's awesome engine. The new V10 400, also another great product, and just their whole range is industry leaders sort of thing in outboards, I think. And then you go across to sort of a Seakeeper, which is just, stabilization is just a whole new world at the moment, and everyone's talking about it, and it changes boating. It makes it comfortable. It gives you more days on the water, and their product's fantastic, like really, really good. Their support's great too. They're a good company to work with. The new Seakeeper Ride that's coming out, which is another sort of, or it's out, but which is they don't like me calling it a trim tab system, but it's a trim system or a stabilizing system for sort of faster boats and smaller boats at the moment, but it'll be industry leading again. The ability that the software and the systems that operate that, it's
the readouts are just
it's
nuts.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you go for a run on a boat that's fitted with those products, and it's just it's a game changer.
It's very cool. There's so much really awesome stuff that is coming out in each of the categories. I think it's great to be at the forefront too of being almost MAN sounding board on how things are working before they make it kind of maybe in the recreational sector. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize you guys were doing that for the ferries, so that's awesome.
One of the main reasons I went to the US was the MAN product in the early days, when we were struggling to sort of get, I wouldn't say support, but information, because we weren't seeing them in the field here doing the sort of hours that they were doing in the States. So we went to the boat show at Fort Lauderdale, made some relationships and met some people and talked to some people, and went to the boat builders, and so we were ringing them. Have you seen this sort of problem? Has this ever happened? And then probably 3 years later, they're doing the reverse. They're calling us. You guys have had these engines in service for 10,000 hours. What have you seen? What's going on? What should we be looking out for? So it was really nice to have that role reversal. And mate, look, they have 6 boats, 12 engines, and some of them made 20,000 plus hours with hardly having a spanner put on them, like not overhauled, they're very, very strong product in that range. They're doing really well. So
where do you think the industry is going to be in 10 years from now with all the innovation? Like, what's going to be really different? Because you've been in it for a while. You've seen the progression. You've seen how quick things are changing and advancing.
Emissions have been a huge part of it, and fuel savings. Obviously fuel savings transfer into emission savings. Electronics, a lot of electronics, management systems, even the way that a standard fuel pump now has an electronic EEPROM that operates the fuel system, that regulates pressure. That's, so much electronic involvement. And I was sort of lucky I was on the sort of beginning of that, but some of the older mechanics is sort of, once it gets to that, it's sort of, it's all too hard, and you can't sort of, get their head around it. But, even the young guys now coming through, and mate, I'm no expert when it comes to computers but using the system more and more and more, it's clunky. It has its moments sometimes, some of the programs. But I think the biggest changes is the electronics and monitoring as well, engine monitoring.
The tech part is interesting for what you guys do, because it's almost like you have to get trained in an entirely different field, understanding how things always work, and now adding the whole electronic component to it. It's more reliant on it, right? So it's integral to the system. You've been in countless engine rooms. What's one of your favorite projects that you've ever done, and why?
I've worked in Malaysia. We did a fantastic V10 rebuild in Malaysia. That was very interesting. Went over there and did a few service jobs for the lady and the customer who owned it. And they were fantastic people, taking us out after you finished work, going to dinner. And so it was, made it feel like you were kind of on holidays, until you had to absolutely die in the engine room in 35-degree heat and 100% humidity. So, but no, that job that ended up developing into one of the engines failed, and we flew over there. I took another tech with me, and Alex and I flew over there, and we basically project managed the whole thing. So organised to have the teak deck and the floor removed, which we pretty much did ourselves with a crane and stuff. Had the engine all disconnected, lifted the engine out. Alex got electrocuted, but that's another story. It was an interesting place, and then we got the engine and we set up 4 sawhorses and plywood bench, and we completely stripped the engine down to a bare block and rebuilt it. New liners, new pistons, new heads. Did the full rebuild there in the 2 containers in an L shape with a tin roof over the top. And at 4 o'clock or 3:30, 4 o'clock every afternoon, it had rained that hard it'd drive in sideways. So you'd feel the temperature changing. You'd have to quickly wrap everything up in plastic and put a tarp over it. And then half an hour later, it'd be sunshine again and steaming, and you'd be back down there working. But yeah, we rebuilt that whole engine, repainted it in the car park on a Sunday afternoon, put it back in the boat, and mate, sea trialled it without an alarm, without a problem, without a leak. Anytime you do a rebuild, there's always a little leak, a little problem, but that one just went perfectly. And we were in and out of there in under 5 weeks, 4 and a bit weeks to get the whole job done. And so that was good. I did another one where we had to, a 52 Viking, where we had to pull the crankshaft out and do some rectification work that someone else hadn't done so well. And anyhow, we had to pull the crankshaft out of the block and send the crank out and get the crank lineaged, and then change the camshaft as well with the engine in situ. So had to figure out a way to lift the engine up in the engine room, and then build some feet to hold the engine up high enough so you could slide underneath it to pull the crank out, and then put it all back together and drop it back down into position. And it's always nervous the first time you hit the key. If you hit the key and you're not nervous, there's something wrong with you. You may as well give it away. So, but it was really, really good again to go for a sea trial on that, and everything went fantastic. Bit of a moment where I climbed around the front of the engine room. We're on the sea trial, and I may have bumped the emergency stop with my fat ass. And the boat was doing 40 plus knots or 40 knots at full speed, and the whole boat just lunged sideways.
Oh, God.
And the customer's got his head in his hands, and he's like, "Oh my God, what's happened? What's happened?" So don't worry, it's just me. Reset the emergency stop, and off we went. So,
Just keeping them on your toes.
Yeah.
Huh?
So
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then Cookie again. That was not a great job for the customer. It was quite trying on both of our patience and relationship. But mate, yeah, great customer, and mate, he just took it as it was. And yep, mate, his favourite saying, "It's not cancer. Let's move forward. Let's get it done. Let's get it fixed." And that was another great job, like difficult job, but good job to actually overcome those difficulties. And I don't know, there's lots of, every day is different, and every year we have a new challenging job and a new challenging boat.
Is that what you think is great about the job? Is that it's just different every day? Like you're just constantly trying to figure stuff out. There's always something to, I guess, diagnose and save the day, perhaps?
Yeah, for sure. I'm like, builders come to your house and look at your house and go, yeah, we can do this, we can do that, no worries. And I look at it and go, how are you going to do that? Like I can't figure out. I don't have it in my head on how I can build something or what it would look like when it's finished. But I can get in an engine room and look around an engine room and go, yeah, we can get this out of here. Yeah, we'll do this. We'll roll it on its side. We'll build this frame to do this, to do that. Yeah, it's a challenge, and I enjoy that side of it. As I said, anybody can go and spin filters and do the easy work. Unfortunately, that's where the money is, mate. Get in, get out. It's easy work. It's known fact. You do the job in a day, you get paid in a week. Mate, that's the bread and butter stuff. But I don't find it as rewarding. It becomes a job. I look at this as it's a career and it's a lifestyle, and it's exciting and it's a challenge. And so the last thing I want to do is just go to work every day and do the same thing day in, day out. So I really enjoy the challenges and figuring out how to do something. And when someone says you can't do it, or you talk to someone else, oh mate, don't worry about it. Just put new engines in there. And it's like, some people don't have an unlimited budget, and it's not just the new engines, it's all the other stuff that goes with it, and it just always blows out. So yeah, I enjoy the difficult and the challenges. And
you once said when I was interviewing you for the brand film about how much time you spend at work and how important it is to enjoy it. What was it that you said?
Oh mate, it's more than 50% of your life easy that you spend at work. If you're only doing an 8-hour day, it's still a huge part of your life to be there 5 days a week. Yeah, most of our guys do 10 hours a day. Yeah, there's some short days, but there's mostly long days like that. But yeah, it's important to enjoy what you do and enjoy the people you're around and have fun with the people you're around. And, no one wants to go to work if they hate it. Yeah. So, I think that's one thing. We all get on really well and we all have a lot of fun at work and stir each other up and support each other too. Like, it's fantastic when some of the boys are working back late and they're in the middle of something and then someone else will offer to call past and help them or ring up to see if they can do anything or, oh, look, Evan needs a hand in town. All the boys put their hand up. It's a really good environment that we got going. So
you built a really amazing culture, actually. I haven't been to many businesses that, like, genuinely everyone has a bit of banter. They have a fun time. You put on a heap of events. I think they enjoy work in their own way. And if they didn't, they don't generally last long with you, right? Like that's like with anywhere, right? Because it's a unique place to work.
Absolutely.
Like it's a fantastic place. I think. How do you approach that team building, culture building part of the business? Because from an outside perspective, it looks like you guys put a lot of emphasis on and a lot of time and attention into making sure that's a big priority for the business.
If you play together, you stay together. You know what I mean? You got to enjoy each other's company. You got to enjoy doing what you do. And yeah, it is a big part of it, mate. And one of the biggest things is we don't expect any of our guys to do anything that we wouldn't do ourselves, and we encourage them to stand up and say, no, I'm not doing this. And then we'll support it or we'll go and help them do it, So the culture thing, that all stems from that, giving them the confidence and we trust them, we trust their judgment and we support them and help them. And then when it comes to the fun side of it, we go, we have a great time and everyone gets on well and everyone stirs each other up and we all sort of fish together or the opportunities there for them all to come fishing on the boat. We go away for weekends, we go go-kart racing, we have barbecues at 6 a.m. or at 7 p.m. or, a couple of times a year we'll throw on an early barbecue and everyone comes in early. Not everyone. Some people like to sleep in and don't show up for the barbecue. No names, but yeah. But and then when they don't show up for the barbecue, we all hang shit on them and stir them up. And But no, it's a good environment. It's a good culture to sort of, everyone helps each other out. And
out of the events that you guys do put on and have over the years, what's a memorable one that stands out to you?
We do plenty. And Sam, who's our director of First Impressions, and she calls herself the backbone, but she puts a lot of time and a lot of effort into organising those sorts of things. And
so I know that you take the guys to the snow, you go to Perisher, you do events like you said, like go-karting and all that stuff.
The snow would have to be up there with the best. We had a fantastic crew. It was probably when we were at our biggest. We had like 23 or 22 staff and nearly all of us went down. There was like 18 of us and then another 2 turned up in their own car. We all went down in a bus, which was an interesting trip in itself. So we drove down first thing on the Friday morning and we got there and there's a massive blizzard and we had to put chains on the bus and try and get up the hill. And then we got to the hill and we had to check into our accommodation. And then after people were just dressed and hitting the hill, everyone else was checking in. And then we all met up with each other on the hill by chance and then had a fantastic dinner and kicked on and skied the next day. And so that's probably up there with, I think, one of the best weekends we've had away.
Seeing everyone there having a great time is one thing. But then from your perspective, when you get back to work the next day or whatever, like what's different after doing that for your staff?
When you get back from work after an event like that, everyone connects on a much more personal level. And they spend time on a chairlift, in a car, in a bus, whatever, and they talk to each other and not necessarily about work, and they find out that, such and such has a sister. And as I said before, you spend a lot of time at work and to know these people a bit more sort of personally sort of makes a difference. So.
How do you think that also elevates like the service that you guys provide for the customers side of things? When someone's having a great time at doing what they're doing and they're loving the people that they're with, like everyone wants to be a part of that and have you back. That's a huge thing.
It is. And more than 90% of business is relationships. If you don't like dealing with someone and there's an alternative, you'll find an alternative. If you like dealing with someone and there's an alternative, you'll deal with the person you like. And I'm the same. I would much rather give someone I like my money than someone I don't necessarily like. And I connect with people and I want to give them more work. And they may not be the cheapest, but they're the guy I want to support, and they're the guy I want to see him look after his family or her look after their family. And so I think if you're happy in outside of work and you're enjoying yourself socially with the people you work with, it shows. And it's like exercising. Maybe you go and do some sort of exercise and you feel better in yourself. And if you're happy, it shows everywhere. And you turn up to a job and you want to be there, not just it's a job and you have to be there. Yeah, I think the customer sees that and the customer knows that. And again, it all comes down to, at the end of the day, the way you finish the job, you leave the job. If you take pride in what you're doing, it makes a big difference to someone who is just there, getting done, ticking the boxes and moving on. Yeah, I don't think any of our guys are like that. Our guys all sort of take a lot of pride in what they do. And
you are the networker king, right? And it's a natural thing. I love going to boat shows with you because I'm not always that way. And standing next to you is fantastic because you don't have to be. Because you are there and people love talking to you and stuff. Your network is a huge thing in this industry. How did that play into your journey from the start? Is that something that you've always done as far as getting to know people on that level and being conversational? And
no, mate, I actually hate to socialise. I don't like to spend time with other people. That's a complete lie. No, I love socialising. I love spending time with people. I love meeting new people, hearing new stories, learning things from different people. And that is a huge part of the business. And that's when Damien and I first started, mate, I would go and fish every tournament and I'd go to every briefing. I'd go to every boat for drinks. I'd take it all in and I loved it, mate. And I still enjoy that side of it. But yeah, it's relationships is everything. You meet some amazing people and everyone's in their happy place. They're doing what they enjoy. It's a great environment to meet people in. And
that is a big part of, I think, what you bring to the business, that social aspect of it, and the maintaining relationships helps grow the business for sure and keeps people happy. So we've done quite a few pieces of content together. From your perspective, how has creating that content, putting it out on social media and having a bit of a plan for the things that we're doing, like we started with your brand story to tell the story of the directors and onboard engineering as well. Like, how has that impacted your business since a few years ago when we started doing all that?
It's amazing how much it's impacted, like with the suppliers. So the suppliers sort of go, oh, wow, it's just not another company they deal with. We're in their face. We're much more out there and we're promoting their product and they get it. And if we're promoting their product, it's good for us, it's good for them. So the main reason we started the whole socials and everything was to try and attract people and to try and get people to get involved with our business. But it's shown our depth and it's grown our business. And mate, having the professional content that you put in, anybody can film it with a phone or whatever and it means nothing. But the way you present it, the way you edit it and make it, it's really... But on a world stage too, I can't believe the reach that we're getting with people coming back to us and replying on emails and what do they call them, messengers and whatever they do on Instagram. And that's more Sam's department.
Yeah,
so,
director of first impressions. Thank you, Sam.
So, but the reach and amazing how much that's changed our business. And now we've even got a TikTok account apparently.
He's doing all the things.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to hear. And I mean, that was the reason of doing this, was the recruitment side of things. Like you said, there was 2 buckets. We're looking for the apprentice side of things to get good quality apprentices and then also experienced marine mechanics when we were starting this. And it's showing what the job is, the exciting stuff that you guys do. And it's doing it in a place that people can connect with, where they're on their phones and stuff, especially the apprentices, but also in a way that shows your personality and who you guys are and all those events and the fun things, and shows also you guys, as far as the manufacturers go, as a bit of more of a known authority in the space, because you show the process on how you do things. You show this is the scale of the work that you do. This is how you approach these things. And I think that is super valuable for what you guys are doing and how you've grown and how many apprentices we're applying from the content.
The work experience is wild. We get 4 or 5 calls a week about kids wanting to do work experience. And like, I'm not talking about just local kids. I'm talking about kids in Sydney, in Botany, in Rose Bay. That's amazing. And I can't believe the amount of customers that actually watch what's going on. Oh, man, how did you do that? Oh, that was pretty cool. And we've got some amazing content that we've filmed and that we've done. And it's amazing to be able to share it. And I can't believe the amount of people who want to see it. Even my son gets right into it. Oh, Dad, I watched that video that Steve put together, and it's but he loves it, and it's amazing how so much of that younger generation spend so much time watching that.
I think the big thing there is for you, it doesn't seem like it's anything out of the ordinary or exciting or something that anyone would even want to or be interested in watching. But it actually is. It's just a matter of taking interest in it and then showing it, I think, in a way that people want to see what's going on. Everybody wants to see how things are done and show them what life is really like. What do you do all day? Oh, you crane that engine out of that Viking? Like, that's really cool stuff. Just being excited about what it is. And you're always, very excited and willing to be on camera. So thank you for that.
The first time when you came with us to the Miami show, I'm like, looking and going, oh wait, that's not me. That's definitely not me. That's not what I want to do, and that's not something I'm good at, and I still don't think I'm good at it. But you're good at editing, Steve. That's definitely for sure. It's not as bad as you think. Just get out there and do it. And I don't know, I stopped caring a long time ago what people think of me, and they can say what they want, and they can think what they want. So it doesn't worry me, mate. Just get out there and say what you say. And again, it comes back to if you're saying it and you believe in it and it's the truth, well, who cares? If someone's out there trying to sell some bullshit, well, you smell it straight away.
How big is your team now?
There's 20.
What are the qualities that you look for in apprentices? Like, what makes a really good apprentice to you?
You got to be keen. I say to my kids too, you get out what you put in. Right? You can go to the flashiest school in Australia, but if you're not prepared to put the effort in, you're not going to get anything out of it. You can get just as much out of a public school. If you want it, you can get it. So we've had a lot of great apprentices who they don't want to go home. They want to learn this. They want to learn that. They want to be there to watch this go together or this come apart. They'll come in on a Saturday. They'll start early, and it shows in how they turn out. And then you have other apprentices who want to turn up at 7 and go at 4, and it's just a job. And and some they're good at their job too. Some of them have been great, and they just get in and get done what they have to do and go home. But they're never going to be the next step, and they're never going to go. A lot of them don't finish their trade, or they go and do something different. And mate, no, it's not for everybody what we do. Sometimes you're in confined spaces. Sometimes you're lifting stuff it's heavy that you can't get a crane in or something else. So you got manhandling it with 3 or 4 people, but willingness to learn and ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can. There's no stupid questions. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing is for the young kids to be involved, get involved, ask questions. Even when you're traveling to a job, why are we going this way? And keep your eyes open and see what's going on around you. There's no point sitting in the passenger seat going to sleep on the way to a job. Ask the tradesman what he did yesterday. How did he do it? What made him go down that path? It is hard when you're under the pump, when you're trying to train someone and you're trying to get a job that's got to get done now. Like we do a fair bit of defence stuff and the ferries, and sometimes you don't have the ability to tell them every step of the way how this works or why it works. So us as sort of owners of the business and tradesmen, we need to take the time to show these kids and teach these kids when we do have the opportunity. A couple of weeks ago, we had a couple of V8s that we pulled out of a boat and we're repowering it. And the owner just said, oh, mate, scrap them. They're no good. And had a crankshaft failure. So, we took the time. We could have just taken them next door and scrapped them, but we set them up outside and we pulled the heads off them, and the apprentices pulled the heads off them. And then the apprentices went to the next stage where they pulled the sump off it, and they pulled the con rods and pulled the pistons out of it and showed them how they work and showed them the purpose of the piston cooling nozzle and the valve in the bottom of it and how it works and why it's there. And, so you got to take the time to teach them. And it's the same idea. The more we give them, the more we'll get back as well. If we just treat them like labourers and make them carry stuff to and from the car or lift heavy parts, well, that's what they'll be good at. So we got to put the time into them as much as they've got to put the time into learning. So
that's fantastic. You do opportunities like that where you're not making anything from it. It was an engine that was going to get scrapped, but it's just a day of learning and, way better than I think being at school to learn that stuff, actually doing it on the job and getting paid for it and learning from the best. That's really cool.
Yeah, I wish we had a lot more time to do that. And, we've been talking about just setting up simple things at the workshop. Yeah, it sounds stupid, but how to wire a bilge pump, a simple circuit, but it's not. They're not getting taught that simple stuff at TAFE, I don't think. Maybe they're not paying attention at TAFE. That could be the other problem. But yeah, some of the things, yeah, even right down to what size drill bit to use before you tap a hole, or operate a drill when you're putting a helicoil in, and what the helicoil does. And, you just got to take the time to show them. And you said it before, if you invest in them, they're the future. So
How do you think the marine industry overall has evolved on the marketing side of things? What have you seen? Because marketing hasn't always been a big part of your business, but from an outside perspective with boat brands and different service providers, what have you seen that's been different over the years?
it's product awareness. It's the biggest thing. So, back in the day, someone bought a Princess boat and they just bought a Princess boat. Or I think that was the case. But nowadays they've got the opportunity to choose a whole variety of engines, what sort of gen sets they want. Do they want a Seakeeper? Don't they want a Seakeeper? Do they want a desal? Do they want this? So I think the biggest thing with media and with this sort of the ability to promote products, and it's good for everybody, mate. A customer buys a boat and we recommend an engine, and it might not be a specific brand. It might be the best engine in that class for that boat. And that's what we do a lot of. We just say, here's all the different engines. This is probably the one that we think is the best in this class. But yeah, the ability to promote products and people to actually sort of research and see things. And everybody researches everything these days. Me, not so much. I'll let everybody else research it, and then I just buy what everybody else buys.
Just give me the clip notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of fun at work, especially with Sam. A lot of pranks happening all the time, which is fantastic. What's some advice that you'd give to someone about finding joy and fulfillment in what they do?
You got to love it. You've got to really love it. And you've got to make it fun for everybody too. Like one particular when I got Sam, and she was on the phone to a work cover. I may as well just call it what it is.
Yeah.
She was on the phone to work cover, trying to deal with the situation. And she was quite frustrated with the whole process. And I thought it'd be a good idea to get some hot sauce and put it on a couple of her apricots. And put the apricots back in the package, and she came out in the middle of the conversation waving her arms in the air like she's very frustrated, and grabs the packet of apricots, and I laughed and ran downstairs, and then she ate the loaded apricot, and she came out and the mouth was on fire, and she was swearing and slamming the doors and going crazy, and comes downstairs to the workshop, and just luckily for me that the assurance assessor had turned up. So I'm talking to an assessor in the workshop, and I just looked around and smiled at her, and she just shook her head and went back upstairs. But and she got me back.
Yeah. How about the Christmas one that she got you back?
Oh, yeah.
How much do you love Christmas, first of all?
Yeah, right. I hate Christmas. I can't sugarcoat it. I love Christmas Day, but I hate the lead up. I hate that people think the world's going to end at Christmas time. Everything has to be done by Christmas, and you... Yeah, I'm not
There's a lot of deep-seated anger.
Oh, man, it's a trying time for us to get everybody's boat ready, to get everything sort of finished off. And yeah, so I'm not a massive fan of Christmas. And then, Sam's been with us 10 years now, on and off, not straight 10 years, but
one hot sauce too many. One hot sauce incident.
So she decided I tell her not to put up Christmas decorations around the office or anything, because it just shits me, to be completely honest. So I came back from, I think, the States, went to the Lauderdale Boat Show and came back, and Sam's decided that she's going to decorate my office, and she's wrapped everything individually. And I mean every pen, my stapler, my mouse, my computer, each individual screen, my pictures on the wall, my printer, my chair, and she'd also got all the shredded paper out of the shredder and spread it everywhere across the office to make it look like it had snowed in there. And I just walked in and shook my head, smiled, and then just walked out. And I went, I'm not fucking put up. So,
it was the best. I got that text message after. I was dying laughing. But every workplace is unique. I think the marine industry probably gets off a bit easier as far as what you can get away with and stuff in the workplace. Some places, depending on the business. But I think you always find ways to have fun at work.
It breaks up the stressful moments too. Like I can be having a moment and getting frustrated or stressed about something, and then someone will come in and do something to me bit of a prank or stir me up, and it snaps you out of it, sort of gets you back into what's really important. And it is, you got to have a bit of fun. And there's days there where we're flat out and no one hardly says a word to each other and just gets in and gets it done. And then there's other days where we're having fun and stirring each other up, and you spend so much of your time at work, you got to enjoy it. It's the biggest thing. You must enjoy what you do.
I love that. And you guys definitely do.
Yeah.
I've got some rapid fire questions from you, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right.
What's your dream boat?
64 Viking.
Favorite boat you ever worked on?
I actually love the Assegais just because how simple and how they've thought it out for an engineer's point of view. Ascari, Deploy.
Best boat show you've attended?
Fort Lauderdale.
Favorite fishing spot in the world?
Oh, Cairns, Great Barrier Reef.
Favorite fish to catch and why?
Marlin, coral trout. I actually found it like stick bait last year. I actually had a great time throwing stick baits as long as I didn't hit the boat.
That's all right. You know, if you ship rights.
I'm sorry, Cloney.
Why do you love catching coral trout?
Oh, I love eating him.
Best prank you played on Sam, the director of First Impressions?
Yeah, the hot sauce.
Fantastic. Best part, worst part about your job?
Going home smelling like diesel. Best part, going home. Going home each day, seeing my family, and that's what it's all about. So, yeah.
I thought you were going to say best part, still going home smelling like diesel. The most common phrase you hear at work?
It's not heavy, it's just awkward, because that's one of my favorites, and it really grinds their gears and gets them upset. So, all followed by one team, one dream. I throw that around a bit and they get upset with that.
That's a classic Stubby one. Yeah, for sure. Boat pet peeve?
Dirty engine room or using engine room as the storage.
Ooh,
does my
unique. Yep. Yeah. If you could trade places with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
Probably Sam. Because I just come to work when I feel like it and go home when I feel like it. Or maybe my wife, because she's blessed. She's a lucky lady.
What's the most unique thing you've ever seen on a boat?
Probably a Honda generator strapped to the flybridge roof with those ratchet tie downs and extension leads running from the roof down into the power point to the shore power to run the power on the boat. And I think there was two up there. There wasn't just one. So that was quite interesting.
Good to have backup.
Yeah, I don't think we worked on that boat. We just walked up, looked at it and left.
Strangest thing you found in an engine room?
Oh, packets and packets of Prozac. And I didn't even know what Prozac was. I had to Google it. It's some antidepressant drug or something that one of my clients must have been putting him in his wife's drink so she enjoyed spending more time on the boat. I don't know, but it was empty packets of Prozac everywhere in an engine room. It was bizarre.
What would you repower the Triton with if you needed to?
The same. 2-stroke Detroits, because they just sound unbelievable. I know they leak oil, but yeah. And the power to weight, mate, the old 550 Detroit's awesome.
Favorite engine and why?
Depends on what model and what horsepower. The 2,000 horsepower MTU and the 2,400 MTUs in the 64, 68 and the bigger Vikings, those things these days are unbelievable. The 1550 new generation MAN, also an absolute bulletproof, amazing engine. I'd love to see what's going to happen with the 2000 MAN. C18 in that range at that 1,050 horsepower, another absolutely bulletproof engine, really, really good product. Mate, the old Cummins B series, you can't beat them. Volvo D11, great product too, really, really quiet sort of engine. So there's lots of different engines in different ranges. Little 4-cylinder, 4JH4 Yanmar in those smaller 80 horsepower sort of thing. They're great product as well. So it just depends on what you're looking for. And that's what I'm saying. We don't recommend any one brand.
Last one. What's the best piece of advice or quote that Baz ever gave you?
You can shear a sheep year after year, but you'll only skin it once. Okay, there's another one that I'll probably
Yeah.
Don't f up like I have.
Words to live by. Yeah. I love it.
I've learned a fair few lessons and most of them have been through making mistakes. By the way, that's the truth in life, isn't it, mate? Most of the best lessons you have cost you money and hurt.
Yeah.
And that's why they're real good lessons, I guess. So,
As long as you learn from them.
That's it.
Yeah.
So.
How do you want to leave us today, Stubby?
What do you mean? How do I want to leave you? I'm very thirsty. it's Friday, Steve. So
Yep, sorry. So to the pub then. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. What word of advice would you give to anyone out there that's looking to maybe become a marine mechanic or has been in it a little while and is looking for a change or reigniting a passion of why they got into it in the first place?
Again, it comes back. You got to do what you love. You got to get up each morning and want to go and do it. You don't ever want to have to feel like it's a chore. Say if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. You just got to really have a passion for it, and you got to keep working on that passion too. It doesn't just, sometimes you have moments where you don't want to do it anymore and you want to get out and you want to do something different, and you just got to sort of push on and find the passion again. You want people to get involved in this trade, in this industry, and you want people to love it as much as I do, which I think's hard and unique to find. And every now and again we find a handful of people like that, but you got to get out there and give it a try. We recently had a guy who come along who was from a defence background and worked with us for a month, and absolutely loved it, and said he was keen as to take it on and take a change in his career. But I think that's the biggest thing. You've got to get out there and try it. You've got to try new things and put yourself out there, and don't be afraid that if it's not for you, it's not for you. I've also had a guy that lasted 3 hours. He was in an engine room with me, and we were down on the outboard side pulling cylinder heads off, and he says, "Oh, mate, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, what do you got to go to the bathroom or something?" So I moved out of the way and let him out. And I followed him out of the engine room thinking we were just going up to have a coffee or a bit of a break because it's pretty tight in the old 48. And so we get out there and he goes, "Mate, I can't do this." He goes, "This is ridiculous." But it just wasn't for him. He worked on big earth moving and mining equipment, but he could not handle working on boats and couldn't handle that environment. And so,
thank you so much for sharing your insights and stories and wisdom. You're a legend. Very fortunate to have you in my corner, and the industry's, I think, really fortunate to have you and Damo and Shannon too, looking after all the boats. It's a profession that's not going away anytime soon. It's a very desirable, very in need thing for a long time. I think it's a great thing, like you said, if you love it. Marine mechanic would be awesome. And for anyone looking, the only mechanics call are definitely Onboard Engineering. Be sure to check out all their website and socials. You see Stubby's head on there quite frequently, and the rest of the team. And I'd love to know, for all the listeners out there, like what you loved about today's conversation. I'm keen to share more stories like this too from legends like Stubby in the industry. So if you have someone in mind that you'd love to hear on the podcast, send them my way, and catch you on the next episode of the Rising Podcast.